Okay, we are back. I'm very happy to have back on the Goldstein on Gelt Show Tom Corley, a best-selling author of the book Rich Habits, the Daily Success Habits of Wealthy Individuals. As a former guest on the Goldstein on Gelt Show, he has shared with us some fantastic ideas, including his own story, which, by the way, if you missed, is fascinating. And you can hear that old interview, like all of our old interviews, on YouTube. They're all converted into videos. Just go to YouTube and look up Goldstein on Gelt and Tom Corley, and you'll find the video there. And Tom has recently come out with a new and very, very important book, which I have not been able to put down, and I suggest you get a copy real soon, about teaching your kids about money. The book is called Rich Kids. Tom, a real pleasure to have you back.
Oh, Doug, thanks for having me back on your program. I really enjoyed it the last time, and I'm so happy to be here again.
So one of the things that I find, in my day job as a financial advisor, that not to put kids down, but a lot of times parents and just the older generation feel that the younger generation is, I don't want to use the word lazy, but they're just not motivated to deal with money on their own, and they handle it really poorly. How would you suggest to start teaching kids to really get into good money habits?
Well, I think the whole purpose, the reason I wrote Rich Kids was to help parents, grandparents, and teachers to become mentors to their kids in matters of money and in non-financial matters that will help them become successful in life. And the reason I thought it was an important book to write was I just, from all the research that I've been doing, Doug, it's obvious to me that somewhere close to 95% of the population of parents out there just aren't having the conversations they need to be having with their kids. And there's a lot of reasons for it, but I think it comes down to they just haven't gotten into the habit of mentoring their kids. It's just not something that's on their radar. They're rushing them off to sporting events and to some extracurricular activities, but nobody's sitting around and actually having a conversation on things that I talk about in the book, such as finding your main purpose in life and the kind of etiquette you need to have in order to be successful. Because when they get out there after college, if they go to college and they're in the real world, they find out pretty quickly that the lack of etiquette holds them back in life. So I thought that was important to include in the book. And there's also, you want parents to, the reason I say they have to get into the habit of being a mentor is it's something that they have to do every day. And so the blueprint for this is really in my book, Rich Kids. I kind of walk parents through via a story, which I love writing stories to teach the lessons from my research. And this way it's interesting and they can pick up on some of the things that some of the conversations they should be having with the kids, which are in the book.
So when a parent wants to teach his kid the right way, and in the book, the way it's sort of structured is that there's really a daily conversation with grown up and a kid talking about these points head on. Is that what you're suggesting, or is it possible just to kind of teach your kids through osmosis?
I don't think osmosis. Yes, I can tell you I picked up some good habits through osmosis just from watching my parents. But sometimes it's not enough, and what needs to happen is you need to walk the walk and talk the talk. So you got to do both. You can't just let them see what you're doing and hope and pray that they'll emulate you. You want to have them see what you're doing and then reinforce why you're doing what you're doing in the hopes of bettering your life and bettering the lives of your children. So you've got to have the conversation, and it has to be. I won't say it has to be daily, but I would guess if you want to be effective, you've got to be having a conversation with your kid at least 3 or 4 times a week about different things, different issues that matter to success in life. And if you don't have that conversation, then what you're doing is you're outsourcing it to someone else. And if you don't become the mentor to your kids, then somebody else will, and it may not be the kind of person you want.
Right, they're not the right kind of success. And I want to stress, Tom, that you're also not just talking about how to get to be very rich. It's really the habits of success, which are so important. Let's dive into this a little bit more because, well, a lot of people, they're just not particularly financially successful. They're maybe single parent homes. They're struggling themselves and they're thinking, I'm a failure financially. What can I really teach my kid? And the fact is, they often just teach really, really bad lessons. What can someone in that situation do?
Well, you know what's interesting is in my research, there were 233 millionaires. 177 of them were self-made millionaires, meaning they came from households where their parents were either poor or middle class. So that parent household wasn't a rich household, yet the parents taught these kids, these self-made millionaires, taught them all of these different habits, even though they hadn't learned about them until late in life. They nonetheless taught their kids these habits and reinforced it. And then their kids went on in life to have enormous success with these habits. And that's why I ended up writing Rich Kids, because really it's about the habits that these self-made millionaires' parents taught them that enabled them to go from zero to, in some cases, $20 million in as short as 12 years. So when it's like building a foundation for a house, when you teach your kids these good habits and how, the right mindset, the positive outlook, the wealth, what I like to call the wealth ideology instead of the poverty ideology. If you teach them these fundamentals, then you're building a sound foundation for them. Now, of course, they can go on in their lives and ignore you. But
as sometimes happens with kids. No, I think it's very important to realize what you're saying, which is you don't have to be rich to teach the habits of being rich. We're talking to Tom Corley, who's an expert in the habits of being rich. In fact, he's written a number of books on it. His most recent one is about teaching kids to be successful. Now, Tom, I know that there's a study that you've pointed out that in looking at rich people, only 6% of them, I guess, claim that they get involved in gossip and talking about other people. Well, 79% of poor people claim that they get involved in gossip. It seems pretty obvious, but can you give us the connection between wealth and gossip?
Yeah, sure. Well, gossip for the most part, Doug, is a negative. There are very few people running around saying, "Hey, Doug is such a nice, great person. Did you know Doug did this? Did you?" It's almost like we're hardwired our brains, and this is actually neurologically factual. We're hardwired for negativity. Our brain is always looking for negative signs out there to protect us. So that's just the way we're hardwired. So when we gossip, it's always negative because that's the way our brains are hardwired. Now, when I did the Dave Ramsey interview, he's a big radio host here in the States. The hot button for him was that stat that you just cited. And the reason he told me on the radio program that it was so interesting to him was because he had in his office a no gossip policy. And the reason was just what I found in my research, that gossip is mostly negative. It destroys relationships. You're inadvertently stabbing people in the back. And so when you damage those relationships, remember, any relationship could have contacts in the relationship database with people that could open the door for you or your kids, to get into a college or, get an internship or whatever. So when you damage a relationship, you not only damage one relationship, you damage the 200 or so people that person knows. And that's an average from some marketing survey that was done like 20 years ago. The average person knows 200 people. So you completely lose the ability to tap into that person's network. And so that's why when you gossip, if you're going to gossip, it has to be only positive, uplifting things, because then that trust me, the negative stuff gets back and the positive stuff gets back. But as a general rule, just avoid gossiping because you'll destroy your relationships, and that'll hurt you and your family.
Yeah, I think that's a critical idea. It's certainly a topic that we hear a lot of people in Israel talk about. In fact, it's studied in a lot of the Jewish seminaries in yeshivas, and the word in Hebrew is called lashon hara, which in English means the evil tongue. And it is so looked down upon. It's said that if you speak badly about someone, it's like destroying the world. And I think that the lesson, which certainly comes all the way back from the Bible, certainly applies here. Tom, I want to focus on something else you wrote about in Rich Kids, was the importance of finding your main purpose in life. I think a lot of times people feel that's just such a big, hairy, audacious goal. That's one of the terms. They say it's too much. What do you mean, my main purpose? So what do you mean for people to find their main purpose?
Well, what I found in my study is that there really is, I can boil down the secret to success as being engaged in some passionate pursuit, focusing on that passionate pursuit persistently. And that's really the secret to success. So the key is finding your main purpose. And sure, everybody out there I think they would agree with you. Yeah, easier said than done, Tom. How do you find your main purpose in life? Well, if you don't actively try, you won't. Or you'll have to rely on luck, random luck, to find your main purpose. So what I talk about in the book, and I actually created, it's almost an algorithm, if you will, on finding your main purpose in life. And it involves really a few steps. What you want to do is engage in different activities. And I think 6 months is a good time frame for you to engage in a new activity. And then after 6 months, if you are not, just head over heels, thinking about it 24/7, then it's not your main purpose. So you move on to the next thing. And let's say you do that for, say, 5 years, and you're a 25-year-old person. Well, at age 30, you're talking about engaging in 10 different activities. And I promise you, one of those activities that's new and novel that you didn't even pursue before is going to spark some interest in you, or splinter off into another direction, as it did with me. I wrote Rich Habits, the book, because I was passionate about the research I had done and the training that I was doing. Well, what ended up happening is it splintered off into becoming passionate about writing books and doing speaking engagements, which I never even thought about. So when you pursue things, even if there's a 20% spark of passion inside an activity, it could lead to another activity that you would have never been aware of, Doug, if you hadn't at least tried these new, different, novel activities. So you can't just wish it to happen. You can't just sit back and say, well, one day my main purpose will visit me.
Right.
That's not how it works. How everybody finds their main purpose in life is by pursuing different activities. And I think 6 months is a good time frame to find out. Stick to it for 6 months. See if it's something you're passionate about. If not, move on.
That sounds like great advice. Tom, we've gotten a lot of great advice from you today, but there is so much more, I know. So in the last few seconds, just tell us, how can people learn more about what you're doing, get your books, and continue to follow you?
Well, richhabits.net is the hub. If you go there, you not only can get my books, but I put all of my research articles on there. And many of these research articles wind up in Business Insider, Credit.com, MSN, Money Magazine, and so on. So they're all the latest information that I've come up with. And then if you want to get some free ebooks, there's a number of free ebooks you can download. There's a number of free reports. They're more extensive than the articles that I write. You can download those, and you can see all my media interviews, and there's quite a bit on there, so you could actually watch me on video talking about some of these important topics.
All right, so we will put a link to that, to richhabits.net, at the show notes of today's show at goldsteinongelt.com. Tom Corley, thanks so much again for coming back.
Thanks, Doug, for having me on again. I really appreciate it.
You are listening to the Goldstein on Gelt Show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Doug's weekly radio show is heard around the world, but if you miss it, you can download the podcast at www.goldsteinongelt.com. The Goldstein on Gelt Show gives you up-to-date financial ideas so you can get on the path to financial freedom. If you'd like your questions answered on the air or off, send Doug an email to doug@profile-financial.com. It's your money for your future, so join Doug every week to build your wealth on the Goldstein on Gelt Show.